What's good? My name is Croff. Black Lives Matter is a racist hate group that's primary purpose is to murder the entirety of the American police force and create a new society in which black people are the rulers and the only ones that actually matter. No, that's actually not true at all. And if you believe that any part of that statement is even slightly true, then you do not understand the Black Lives Matter movement at all. And as far as this subject is concerned, you are a dummy. And that's fine. We're all dummies at something, but we're about to change that right now because this video is for you. In the year 2015 alone, 1,134 black men were murdered by the police, making us 9 times more likely to be killed than any other American is. Still yet, there has been no reform of the American police force at all. But that's just the surface. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, black people make up 37% of the prison population, despite only making up 13% of the country. That means we are arrested at 3 times the rate that we should be. Conversely, white people only make up 32% of the prison population, despite making up 63% of the country. That means they are arrested at only half the rate that they should be. And of course, I know what you're thinking.
Well, black people commit more crime. That's why they're in prison more. Just stop doing the crime.
False. Black people are arrested and sentenced more than white people. There is no research to support the claim that we actually commit more crimes. But whatever, what else you got for me?
Well, still, black people kill black people way more than police kill black people. Apparently, black lives don't matter to black people.
Good job. You're actually right about that one. But here's where it gets fun. Let's find out why black people kill each other more. Well, according to the BJS, 64% of all inmates in America do not have a high school diploma. Education and violent crime are so closely linked that State Farm Insurance and the Alliance for Excellent Education's report shows that if male graduation rate was improved by just 5%, that would decrease overall annual incidents of assault by 60,000, larceny by more than 37,000, motor vehicle theft by more than 31,000, and burglaries by more than 17,000. The school to prison pipeline is a real thing, people. There is countless evidence to support the fact that the worse schooling you have, the worse you tend to do in our society. Well, now, who has the worst schools? Black people. According to U.S. News and World Report, we have the lowest math and reading scores in every single grade. We are less likely than whites to have an associate degree or a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. We are read to less, told a story less, given arts and crafts less. Even the chances of us visiting a library before the age of 5 are severely less. But you know what we're more likely to do? We're more likely to not graduate high school at all, twice as likely to be exact. We're 3 times more likely to be held back than white children, and also black children are 3 times more likely to be suspended or expelled. And yes, I know what you're thinking.
Well, it's not my fault your kids aren't doing well. Maybe you should start teaching them more than just how to twerk and play basketball. Or hey, what about maybe black kids just aren't as smart?
False. Stop it. I need you to try to clear your mind of all your societal conditioning and listen to me. Since the foundation of this country, black people have always been one of, if not the poorest race in the country. Currently, we are the poorest, be it low income, regular poverty, or extreme poverty. We are number 1 in all of those. So you know what that means? That means that because of this generational poverty, black parents may have less access to materials, less time because of job and family obligations. Our moms don't have time to read to us because they're spending all their time at work trying to keep the lights on. And yes, I specifically said moms because another sad thing about black culture is the fact that because America has imprisoned so many black men, a huge percentage of us grow up in single parent households where the mother has to work twice as hard to provide, which thereby leads to the fact that black children are more likely to live in households that are low income, extremely poor, food insecure, or receiving long-term welfare support. And that causes severe stress, which thereby leads to the fact that black children are also more likely to have emotionally traumatic experiences in childhood, such as abuse or neglect or the death of a parent or witnessing domestic violence, which thereby leads to the fact that according to the National Council for Drug Abuse, a person in an impoverished situation may abuse drugs or alcohol in order to cope with the dangerous environment she lives in, a way to deal with her financial situations or cope with physical or emotional abuse, which thereby leads to the fact that according to futurity.org, welfare in periods of instability and family structures are risk factors for early sexual activity. This is why little black children are starting to have sex at 11 and 12 in order to get away from the problems in their home life. So by the time they get to school, they do horribly because they got way too much other stuff going on in their head to be worried about Pythagorean theorem. Like, this is it. Poverty leads to bad schooling. Bad schooling leads to high criminal activity. High criminal activity leads to racism. And racism leads to discrimination and black people not being given the same opportunities, which leads right back to poverty. And the cycle starts over. So when we say Black Lives Matter, this is not a war cry. This is us trying to get you to understand that we are in a situation that has layers on top of layers that you probably wouldn't get or understand unless you are a part of the black culture. We barely understand it or know where it started, but given the history of this country, we got a pretty big hunch that it started with racism. So our theory is that if we end racism, then we won't be discriminated against and be given less opportunities, which means that we won't live in poverty, which means that we'll have better schools and do better in them, which means we'll have less criminal activities, which means we'll give other races less of a reason to be racist in the first place. But honestly, we're not even so sure about that last part because sometimes it feels like people just hate us because. And so it feels like sometimes y'all don't think our lives matter. And you're not even trying to understand the situation that we're in or the environment that made us this way. So, to all black people, please do your best to educate those around you. Give love and emotional support to your community. And if you have the financial means, give money to your community so that we can stimulate our own economies. To all other races, specifically white people, we would just like you to really try to learn our circumstances and not just write us off as criminals and thugs. Really try to learn what it is that you could do to help reconstruct this systemic cycle that seems to engineer criminals and thugs. And to all people, I love you. One more thing, if you want to learn everything that I talked about in this video, plus every other piece of knowledge that I have ever learned ever, then click the link in my bio and join the Genius Factory. With this quarantine, we are in the hardest moment of our entire lifetimes, and so I have created a quarantine super school. In it, I have videos about financial empowerment, overcoming anxiety and depression, finding peace, actualizing your purpose. Click the link in my bio and join the Genius Factory. Please, please, I guarantee that you will come out of this quarantine stronger than ever. See you there. I love you.